Hey guys, we get asked fairly regularly about homestay in Japan. We've touched on it in previous videos a little bit, and it's been discussed on the website forum a little bit as well. But we'll just give a quick rundown of it, or a quick going over of it, quick discussion of it. There's some advantages to homestay, of course. If you're coming to Japan for a week or a month or maybe even a couple of months, the advantages of homestay would be, first of all, the cultural thing, of course. It's probably the best way in a short period of time to get a good dose of the culture and the lifestyle, obviously, compared to staying in a hotel or hostel or something. You know, you go stay in a foreigner hostel surrounded by other foreigners, or go stay in a hotel when you're in your own hotel room, or the other options. Obviously, you're not going to get the same immersion that you would if you stay in a homestay, obviously, because you're going to be living the lifestyle surround, you know, living as part of the family, part of the Japanese family, and surrounded by it and living it day to day. So from that point of view, definitely a good way to get a dose of the culture and the lifestyle. From the easiness, it's probably one of the easiest ways to go, because quite often they'll pick you up from the airport and take you back to their house, and you know, they usually make breakfast for you every morning and dinner for you every night, and you know, they do everything for you basically. So again, like being a part of the household, like being a part of the family. So as far as easiness, it's probably the easiest solution instead of trying to look after yourself. Cost, fairly competitive cost. It depends on who you stay with and where you are, what city it is, and a whole heap of variables. But it seems to be that about $40 or $50 a night can be about average for homestay. It does vary though. Sometimes it's even a touch cheaper if you're staying for a long period. Sometimes it's more expensive if you're in a nice house or a nice city or something like that. The cost can be higher. So it varies quite a bit depending on who and where and everything else. But competitive, the price is competitive compared with a hostel or a hotel or something like that. So there's those advantages. However, it's quite common to hear horror stories about homestays from both points of view. So we've heard horror stories. We've actually heard more horror stories from Japanese families telling us, oh, we had a homestay once, you know, oh, we had a foreigner stay at our house once for a week, you know, and you can sort of see by the way they say it that it wasn't all good, you know. And if you use a tire lever, you can get them to tell you a bit about it. Quite often it's a horror story. And there's also horror stories from people who've stayed at homestay as well. And the reason is cultural difference, basically. So a lot of the topics that we've covered on our how-to playlist about how to do things in Japan and, you know, how things are done in Japan, if you read through the comments, you can see by the reactions that a lot of people couldn't handle it. And the point is that if you're doing homestay, you're living as part of the Japanese family. So that doesn't work for a lot of people, and keeping in mind you're living in their house, so you're in Japan and you're living in the people's house, so it's not a matter of them adjusting to your style. So if you're the sort of person who thinks that, oh, well, I'm a foreigner so they can just adjust to the way I do things, then homestay is not for you. Basically, the sort of people that should be doing homestay are the people who could, or that, you know, will have the least hassles doing homestay, would be people that are totally flexible, that really genuinely want to get into the culture. And you know, it's quite often that people say, oh, I'd love to get a good dose of Japanese culture, I love Japanese culture, and that's all good, but it depends on what their perception of Japanese culture is. So just to touch on a few realities here, some of the problems that are encountered with people that do homestay is that you have to do things the way that you're told when you're told. So an example for that would be, it's time for your bath now, and you'll be just told, because families here usually have a routine, like they do in a lot of countries, you know. Families have a routine that, you know, someone has a bath, and then the next person has a bath, and the next person has a bath. And quite often people will tell you here, if you ask particularly kids will tell you, oh, I go first, and then my big sister, and then my father, and then my mother, or whatever, you know. know. So you'll have to slot in for that, and they'll just tell you it's time for your bath, you know, and you'll have to go in there and have a bath in the Japanese way, you know, because they won't want soap in their bath, and they won't want, you know, they won't want you to be doing things differently in there and making a mess, so you have to do things their way. So it's time for your bath. It's time for breakfast. And of course, you know, of course, Japanese people are extremely kind, and they will try to do things to make it easier for you. But the point is that they are Japanese people in Japan, and you're in their house as part of a homestay to learn the culture. So, you know, for that reason, you're expected to do it their way, but also keep in mind that they only know their way. So that's just the way they do it. So you'd have to do it. It's time for your bath. It's time for breakfast. Here's your breakfast. It's miso soup, and it's rice, and it's fish, or whatever it is for breakfast. And, you know, okay, dinner's at 6 o'clock. You must be here for dinner. And you know, I've heard stories of adults. Now I'm talking about everybody. I'm not talking about just kids. I'm talking about anybody. You know, and I've heard stories firsthand from 35-year-olds who've stayed in people's homes here and come home at 11 o'clock at night. Now, we're told that the curfew is 10. Curfew, yes, curfew for adults. Not always, but often, more often than not. And stories of people coming home at 11:30 at night or 11 o'clock at night, and the owner of the house, the father of the house, standing outside on the street, folded arms, watching him go up the street. And quite common. So, you know, if you're the sort of person who's listening to this, reacting to it like, oh geez, no, I couldn't handle that, or no, I wouldn't accept that, or I couldn't take that, homestay's not for you. It's just not for you. Usually doing other things like part-time jobs, or maybe even drinking, or going out drinking and coming home and whatever, might not be an option in that household, and you just won't know till you get here. That's the other thing, is that, you know, the organising of these things is usually done online, and you organise it all, and then you come and they pick you up and they take you back to their house, and you're in their house and it begins. So, you know, it's only after you're in there that you find out how flexible, or, you know, what the house rules are. There'll be some rules, usually with homestay organisations that organise homestay, usually they give you a bunch of rules, you know, during the organisation process, but of course the details of those rules you won't know until you're in the house. So, yes. To sort of summarise, for some people homestay could be a really good experience, and of course you hear positive stories about homestay from people who've come to Japan and stayed in a homestay house and loved it, and loved their host family and had a wonderful time. There's very many stories like that, and there's also lots of stories from homestay families who will tell you stories about how, you know, somebody came from England, or someone came from Europe, or someone came from some other country and stayed at their house and it was great. You know, there's those stories as well. So this video isn't trying to put people off. As always, our videos are just to inform and to sort of give people a bit of an idea of what the reality is, because unfortunately what some people perceive these experiences as being and what they really are often really different, and they come here expecting that it's going to be all wonderful. And I think one thing that a lot of people assume, a lot of people from outside Japan assume, is that people will just accept a lot of stuff from them because they're foreign. And we get this on our videos a lot. We make a video saying that in Japan this is the way, you know, this is the way people take a bath, or this is the way people do this or do this. And quite often people come from comments, oh, well, I wouldn't do it that way because, you know, I'm not Japanese, so I wouldn't be doing it that way. And I think there's a lot of people that think like that think, well, I'm a foreigner, so I can do it differently. And to a certain extent that's true. If you come and rent an apartment in Japan, once you close the door of your apartment and you're living inside your apartment, there is certain things that you can get away with doing that Japanese people wouldn't normally do. That is true. But, you know, you're in your own apartment that you own and there's no one else there and the door's closed. So if you decide to walk around without slippers on, or not to use toilet slippers in the bathroom, or you know, whatever it is that you want to do inside your own apartment that's different from the way Japanese people do it, that's true, you can do it. But homestay is not a place where you'll be able to do that. You know, it just doesn't happen. Because Japanese people, anybody who's hosted a Japanese person in another country, outside Japan, will know that Japanese people do their best to conform with whatever the going style is, and you know, you just be expected to do that here. So, which is the whole point of homestay, really. You know, it's not that the foreigner comes into the house and the people change their house around and change their routine around to adapt to the foreigner. That's not really the whole idea of it, is it? The whole idea of homestay is supposed to be for the foreigner to get a genuine taste of Japan, and that's what it's about. So yes, if you're an extremely flexible, easygoing person who can adapt well to different conditions and do as they're asked to do and just accept things and go with the flow, then you might enjoy homestay. If you've felt yourself reacting negatively to anything that's been in this video, then homestay is probably not for you, because it'll wear you down. You know, people who spend a lot of time in Japan know that these sort of things that you think, oh maybe I'd be okay, quite often these things can wear you down. That if there's something that really goes against the grain, that really makes you uncomfortable, usually what happens is you either adapt to it and just accept it, or over a period of time it'll slowly wear you down. You know, coming home for that curfew every night, or taking a bath when you've been told to, or you know, eating what you're told to eat, and all of it, don't leave any on the plate because that's rude. Even a grain of rice, leave a few grains of rice in the bottom of your rice bowl. Is bad form here, as we've mentioned before. So, you know, if you think that might wear you down, then homestay is probably not for you. Then you're probably better off staying in a foreigner hostel. It's full of foreigners, and it's all, that hostel's all about adapting to foreigners, and you can do it your way, and you'll be surrounded by foreigners, and they'll all be doing it their way as well, and it'll be all easier for you. So we're trying to nail down some English-friendly homestay organisations in Japan. We've been sort of sending out some emails to try and find some that we can send you to. If we get any, or we've had a couple, look on the English-friendly directory. We'll put a link in underneath this video. We'll also put annotation. If your annotation's turned on, there'll be an annotation at the top of this page that you can click on that'll take you to the English-friendly directory, and just put it in that nice new search box that we've got. Just put homestay in there, and it'll bring up whatever we've managed to come up with for you. There's only a couple there now. We might be able to find. We're working on finding some more for you, so try that out. Other than that, you probably have organisations in your own country that organise homestay. Sometimes, if you're a school student, high school student, or university student, quite often the schools themselves have programs where they organise homestays in other countries for you. That's quite common. Japanese schools do it too. So, because not all commercial homestay organisations, so not all the ones on the internet that organise it, accept people under 18. So some of them have an 18 and over rule. So the homestay through schools obviously accept teenagers. So, but just research it. Have a look at the links we've given you, and that'll be a starting point anyway. Homestay in Japan. Hope somebody found that useful. More videos coming soon.